Hey guys, welcome to the Healer's Guide for Heroic Beth'tilac. Hopefully most of you will get to see this fight soon if you haven't already, as I found it pretty fun for healers. This is a fight in particular that requires specific roles from DPS, healers, and tanks, which make it a lot of fun. To start with, I recommend bringing 7 healers to the fight. You should have at least 1 Resto Shaman, since mana is somewhat of an issue for all healers in this fight, and 1 Disc Priest, because barrier is indispensable for the last phase. Whatever else you bring, keep in mind that raid healing is more important than tank healing for the majority of this fight. I would still bring a few Holy Pallies to watch the tanks, but stack Holy Priests and Resto Druids pretty heavily if you can. In this kill video, I was in a situation where I had to bring 3 Holy Pallies, 2 Resto Druids, and only 1 Priest and Shaman. The Priest was at first Holy, but I made him swap to Disc towards the end of the night, which is a very good move. I don't recommend having so many Holy Pallies not because they weren't awesome, because my guys definitely are, but because they aren't built to raid heal effectively. And phase 2 is all about raid healing, as you will see. On the surface, not much has changed regarding the swap from normal to heroic. You still have a team going upstairs to take your head on, and you still have people tossing spinners down and stacking in a group downstairs. However, the way healers and such are set up is much more formal. My guild has 3 people on cave or spiderling duty and soaking what we call the boomers, which are yellow spiders. 1 for each cave, which are northeast, northwest, and southeast. In this video, I'm covering the person who is getting southeast cave. Hunters and boomkins are preferred, but this kill I was covering a frosty K who can do it, but might have to have some help occasionally, and you will see a boomkin coming from the group every now and then to help. I set my healers up as follows. 2 will be going upstairs right after the tank. I had a Holy Priest, a Holy Pally, and a Disc Priest, and never had any issues. 1 healer will be assigned to heal the person at each cave, and the other 2 will be in the group watching everyone else. The people assigned to heal the northeast and northwest caves can usually stay in the range of the center group, so keep that in mind when setting healers up. Pallies are not a good choice for cave healers since they will have to move quite a bit depending on what cave they're in. The upstairs team healers should be self-sufficient, but they must keep the tank up and have CDs ready if needed, and it helps somewhat if the melee are stacked with the tank so that the Pally can Divine Radiance, etc. Downstairs is quite fun, as you have lots of sources of raid damage. Beth'tilac has so many different mobs and damage that I wouldn't even start to go through them all. Just suffice to say that they all hurt. If you are a cave healer, you have 2 jobs. 1, to keep your DPS alive, and 2, to soak boomers if they get past the DPS, or the DPS can't soak them because they're low. This happened to me quite a lot, and I recommend putting a druid at the southeast cave because of it. That particular person will get targeted by boomers from the northeast cave, and those spiders will crawl over the edge, so if you don't get those soaked by someone else, your DPS will normally die unless they have a CD up. It is very important to have good communication as a cave person. Let the raid know when a boomer has gotten past the DPS and if you can soak it. The DPS needs to let you know when they're going to have to take 2 boomers, and thus their health will drop rapidly.
Keisha, this is going to hurt in a sec. I'm letting 1 go by.
Okay. Once a boomer is popped, they leave a mess of poison on the ground you have to get out of ASAP. I built myself a power aura for this, and the debuff is called Volatile Poison. Keeping the DPS alive is a full-time duty, especially if they're melee like my guy was. And if they call for backup to help with spiderlings, you will have to watch that DPS as well. The healers in the center have to be ready to move out to your cave to help heal if you get fixated by the drone. If you get fixated, you have to run to the center of the room and face the drone away from the raid until it's over, and then you can go back to your cave. But other than that, the center healers just heal the group and whoever is in range. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. For cave healers, the piece of advice I have is to anticipate when your person will take a boomer. This is hard if they're melee, but if they're ranged, it's pretty simple, so you can wind a cast up. Personally, I never get naturalists in my standard spec, but for druids, I highly recommend it if you're cave healing, or else you'll go out of mana fast. I also do something that is somewhat taboo in the druid world. I drop 1 point of empowered touch, which only gives my life bloom a 50% chance to refresh when healed by nourish or regrowth. I find it useful since usually when you're casting a spell on cave DPS, he's taking regular damage, and a nice 40k bloom is incredibly helpful instead of just a hot refresh. But that is a healer choice. I can't tell you if that's right for you. Once you go through 3 devastations, the boss will come down, and the entire raid, sans tanks of course, will stack together. If you cave heal, your DPS will be finishing off spiderlings, so don't run out of range of them immediately. Wait until they're done and running to the group before you stop freaking out about their health. This stage is straightforward but difficult. There is a regular AoE damage across the raid. Pallies will have their hands tied keeping the tanks up, but everyone else should be watching the raid. But please put hots on the tanks, everyone. Do not use raid cooldowns until roughly 40%. This means barriers, trees, tranks, AMs, rallying cries, etc. If you don't, you will get one shot at 10% and will cry. Until that 30 to 40% time, everyone needs to be on their healing toes, and all the raids should be using personal cooldowns whenever possible. You can usually get 2 1-minute cooldowns off during this time, like Barkskin. I would save barrier until last, like maybe 10 to 12% depending on your DPS. I split up using Trank and Tree Form at different times, since they can be used as 2 separate cooldowns essentially. Have a solid rotation going, make sure healers know when to do what or else they will have overlapping cooldowns and it might not be pretty when you get lower. Make sure priests and shamans use their mana CDs as early as possible and on cooldown. I had my shaman first use his totem right before the second devastation, and it was up for the beginning-ish of Phase 2. Him should be saved for use during Phase 2. Hopefully you guys get this boss quickly. Good luck. And remember, if you want to watch the fight in full, then go to my upload section and search for Months Behind vs. Heroic Beth'tilac.